Hi, it's Keisha Williams with the Science Mentor. And thank you for visiting my blog where I just share everything I've learned, my mistakes, things that have worked in my journey as an online secondary science teacher. And today I want to talk about developing positive student-teacher relationships in an online setting. As you can imagine, that is going to be different than what we use in a traditional setting. However, a lot of the strategies that you would use, that I use in my physical classroom, has transferred nicely over into the online classroom. Um, One of them is going to be calling students by name. The name still has power. Whereas I don't see their faces, I see their names when they enter into my physical classroom. I would say, hello, Ryan. Hello, Jakari. Hello, Brianna. I will call them by their names, and this does a couple of things. It lets them know that I see them, even though we're not physically together, that they feel more connected to the classroom because they heard their name being called. And it makes them feel acknowledged. It makes them feel like they have been seen and they count. Another thing I like to do is to use their names as much as possible during the setting. Now, of course, there are going to be times when you do not want to use their names because it may feel as if you're singling them out, but it does help when you congratulate or you ask questions and you call their name. It lets them know that you are listening. Another thing that I like to do in my physical classroom is to let them chat. And I gave that look because, well, depending on the grade level you teach, I teach middle school, I teach high school. High school, I keep the chat open, I don't restrict it. Middle school, I tend to have some other strategies for the chat, but I notice that it's very important to let them come in, chat with each other, converse with each other. I converse with them. And when I'm looking at the chat, I will acknowledge if someone says, I'm not feeling good. Oh no, what's going on? Because I do care. I care about them just as I would in a brick and mortar. They're still people. Just like they have to understand that we're people. We don't just live in our computers, that they're still people too. And it's very important that you let your personality shine. I am silly. I am crazy. I have a lot of energy in the classroom. These are things that have been told to me. I don't feel like I have a lot of energy half the days, but apparently, it comes across. You even see my science t-shirt, depending on the day. I may have a science theme and I may wear a t-shirt. It's just my personality. So don't be afraid to let that show. And they see it better when you're able to use your webcam. Now, webcams can be tricky because it requires a lot of juice, so to speak, and it can cause things to lag on the student's end or even on your end, depending on the system that you use. And I've used Blackboard, Zoom, Google Meets, Adobe Connect, that sometimes I will just have the webcam up when they come in. And then when I change to a different part of the lesson, they know that the webcam comes off and they understand why. That has been made clear. Sometimes with other platforms, I was able to leave it on the entire time. Most of the time, I have not been in a platform yet that has allowed me, except for Zoom, to have all of my students' webcams on at the same time and it not clog up the system. And when I say except Zoom, it's because those have been times where the classes were not super large. Some of my middle school classes have gotten up there in the numbers, but my higher classes, such as chemistry honors or physics honors, they tend to be smaller, so we all can be on Zoom. Now, of course, the live sessions isn't the entire classroom or learning experience. You have grading, you have the interaction with students through email and phone calls. Those are extremely important when you're making notes and talking about students. Again, power in the name. Get used to saying their names and they will respond to you. One thing that I have always had to do was to conduct some type of welcome call, greeting, or something to introduce them to the class. Many times that was just a personal call to them and their parent. And sometimes, of course, if I'm dealing with my older students, it would just be the student. But during those welcome calls, that is a great opportunity to get more information about your student. We're talking about birthdays, pets, names, things that they may like, and making it conversational. It is too easy just to go down a script and ask questions that the company or your school wants you to ask. But it's also very important for them not to feel as if you're just checking off a list, that they are just one of the things you have to do that day and you're ready to move on to the next student. Have time to be with them and focus on them when you're talking to them. Tricky to do because we have a ton to do in the online setting, but it is extremely important that you do. And the information that you collect from your welcome calls can then become those relationship builders in the online classroom, or when you're sending out emails, when you have to call them about anything. You can ask them about their pet spot, or as I said, I teach secondary, what happened or how is the job going, or the traveling team that they're on, because it makes them feel as if you heard them the first time when they were talking to you. Another great way to show them that you are really interested in what they're doing and they're learning to nurture that relationship is in your feedback when grading. Yes, this is something I still struggle with today, but when I am on my A game, when it comes to feedback in grading, I do notice the difference in my students. I notice the difference in their engagement. I even notice a difference in the support I get from home. And when I say feedback, I mean that substantial feedback. When you're using their name, hey, Aiden, you are correct in that protons are positive. What about electrons? What about neutrons? Can you tell me a little bit more about that in their location? That not only validates what they did correctly, but it gives them some information about what they need to do. A trick for that I've learned is that most of the responses that they get are going to be pretty much so similar in the fact that what they get correct, they get correct. What they don't know, they don't know. And what they kind of sort of get correct is kind of going to be kind of the same thing for each question. So I keep a Google Doc with template responses that I can copy and paste into my feedback and just alter the name and alter some specifics based on what they have provided for me. Strategies and organization for feedback, organization for plagiarism. Yes, that is a living and breathing entity in the online environment. I will talk about in a completely different vlog, but taking the time and set up a strategy where you can at least in the beginning hit those key assignments where you're given that feedback and build up from there, you definitely would get more bang for your buck, so to speak, in your student relationships and your student engagement. And the last thing I want to talk about or mention is that when we are in the brick and mortar, we was dealing mainly with the student because that is who was in front of us every day. But when you're teaching online, you're basically teaching your student from their home, or at least those are the environments that I've been in. I've been teaching students in the online setting from their homes. So that means that I am working with the family, with the parents. Even if they're teenagers, even if there's juniors and seniors, the parents are there. So when you're making a communication, it goes a long way to make the communication toward the family when you need to, because they're there as well. And you're not only setting your expectations, but you are developing a relationship with the parent, the caretaker, the guardian, and that is going to bleed over into your relationship with the student. Leave tips for me. Let me know what has worked for you. If you're in an online setting and you have developed ways or strategies to develop these relationships with your students and your families, I am always learning, and please leave comments and let me know. And please do hit subscribe if you like this and would like to keep up with more.